Good afternoon. My name is Neil Peachey. I'm Senior Business Architect for Surface Transport within Transport for London. So, just a brief introduction to surface transport. Although most of you perhaps think of TfL predominantly about London Underground, actually surface transport covers basically everything that isn't London Underground and Crossrail. So that's the buses, dial-a-ride, cycling. As you can see on here, I won't go through all the modes, but surface transport manages 88% of daily journeys in London, as opposed to the 12% that's on London Underground. Mostly it's outsourced public transport operations, but it's vastly complex. Surface transport deals with the infrastructure, and it's both a regulator and operator. The network is 100,000 nodes and all the arcs in between it, and basically on surface, everything impacts everything else. It's like the chaos theory, and the pothole in Stratford could cause a traffic jam in Hammersmith half an hour later. So collaboration is imperative between TfL and its partners within all the business areas in surface, and on planning and operations for our data and systems, and with our customers to enable them to have a good experience. So we have a roadmap of change, both from a business and a systems perspective, to move from silo-based and individual areas to have individual informed business operations and componentized and common systems. So one of those systems is SITS, which is the Surface Intelligent Transport System, which is a componentized Internet of Things and AI system. It's common, shared across Surface, or will be, dealing with data and event ingestion, situational awareness, predictive modeling, and assisted decision making, and importantly, continual evolution. It's a multi-year program to implement, going from one area to all of Surface. It's moving from reporting and configuration to real-time decision making, moving to common data, managing all of Surface as a 24/7 incident rather than looking at individual incidents, and moving from single data sources to multiple digital and cooperative sources. So rather than people looking at CCTV screens, who are doing video analytics or sensor data from multiple sources to corroborate, eliminate false positives, and moving from manual action taking to assisted decision making. So obviously data is key for that. Then we move on to micromobility vehicles, which usually are human powered or electric. They're privately owned. They tend to be at lower speed and in individual use. They're not the mass transit vehicles. They are expanding the usage. They're COVID friendly and helping the recovery. They also make public transport more accessible, and they help fulfill Mayor's transport strategy around mode shift and moving to active travel. But they are literally under the radar. We have very little sensor data about them. We have very little usage data about them, whether that's cycles or scooters. We do buy some data in to help with planning, but generally speaking, planning and real-time decision making is made in ignorance of reality, because if we can't see micromobilities, vehicles, bicycles or scooters on our systems, then the systems can't make decisions that take them into account. And with micromobility vehicles, there are safety challenges for the users. They're more prone to hitting potholes or being hit by other vehicles. There are safety challenges for other road users and other space users if you're riding a bike or a scooter in a park. And logistically, we've got challenges on availability of those shared vehicles and about parking and storage if they're all left in one place. Either it's a famine or a feast quite often. So at the moment, or up until last week, this was our only access to micromobility information. We have a little bit of information from TfL's own cycle hire operation, just about availability of the bikes to help on customer assistance. And we have some information from information aggregators, whether that's Google or Waze, not necessarily specific about micromobility vehicles, but just incidents that are happening. And as I said, we do buy some data into helping with planning. But generally speaking, not much information. And as I said before, we're therefore making planning and real-time decisions without that data on micromobility vehicles. So core to having this holistic view of the network is micromobility management platform. Not necessarily a platform, but conceptually it's a platform. We need a strategic capability to be able to get anonymized vehicle vectors on micromobility vehicles in the same way that we can see cars and lorries on our systems. And we need to be able to have real-time and analytic information. So the decision was that we should go for a pilot system to learn how things work. Originally, the aim was to be working with bike operators, but then the opportunity to work with the DFT for the e-scooter trial came along. Strategically, we'll be learning what requirements there are as part of the platform, and we'll be integrating in the future with all our systems. But for the pilot, we're just going with a standalone. I'm not going to go through all those the capabilities on the right, but it's quite useful and it's been informative to the rest of TfL to help people understand just how many areas within TfL and our partners need this data and will use this data, whether that's the asset management on the roads. Obviously, if you're a scooter or a cyclist, if we know which roads or paths are particularly used by micromobility vehicles, we can target fixing potholes or resurfacing to make the roads smoother. If we're doing incident management, knowing where micromobility vehicles are, if we're changing traffic light sequencing or planning traffic light sequencing or putting up diversions, if we know why micromobility vehicles are, then we're not in a situation of perhaps turning a set of lights to red in ignorance of the fact that there's 50 cycles or scooters waiting there to go through the lights. And I said that the key asset users and stakeholders are every area within TfL and its partners. So conceptually, then conceptually, as I said, it is a separate platform, but physically it could be part of another system, and we'll, as part of the learning of the pilot, we'll determine that. I've only shown that the key micromobility data flows on here, but in reality, every system is connected to everything else, and we have sensor data flowing into all the systems as well. But basically, the micromobility platform is taking data from micromobility operators and ultimately, hopefully, micromobility vehicles as well, and also taking information from information aggregators and giving that data to areas that are looking into, from the top, the accident and safety management, public transport service management, network and incident management, which is key, of whether that's doing the planning or scheduling of traffic lights, but also the responding to incidents and knowing where the micromobility vehicles are. The micromobility scheme management, both within TfL and in boroughs. The trial is going on for a year, and part of that trial on the e-scooters is to determine how ourselves and boroughs and the rest of the UK want to manage e-scooters. Obviously being used by planning, compliance. The London scheme is doing geo-calming and geo-fencing to stop scooters going at different speeds past schools or events. So that's that network constraints where we're doing scooter specific traffic orders, say to limit speeds or limit geographical scope of scooters during the trial. And then at the bottom, the road asset management to understand where micromobility vehicles are used typically. And then feeding back to the operators, hopefully in the future on a win-win perspective, looking to feed closer data back for the green light optimization. So whether you're a cyclist or scooter rider, then having a smooth and safe journey where you know if you slow down slightly, then you're going to hit the next set of lights at green, not going to have to be sitting there waiting for them to go to green. Is going to be an advantage. And obviously from a safety perspective, being a micromobility user, sitting at the lights with potentially cars and lorries next to you, that's one of the safety issue times that we hopefully then, by using the closer data, you can reduce risk there. So the micromobility platform pilot that we went live in conjunction with the e-scooter trial. It looks like a complicated diagram, but basically it's just saying that for during the pilot and to begin with, just for the e-scooter operators, everybody is just using the platform natively alongside their line of business systems. Obviously, so for example, with the network management, they'll have a browser open to be able to see the vehicle vectors, to see the location of scooters around London. So when they're making decisions about traffic light sequencing or diversions, they are aware of that information. But so during the pilot, everybody will just be using the platform on a standalone basis, and within the timescales of the pilot, then we are also hoping to bring on board Dr. Spite operators, potentially car club operators, and integrate the TfL cycle hire data through as well. But as I said, during the pilot, everybody will still be using the platform as standalone. Strategically, in 18 months' time or a couple of years' time, then you can see that what we're aiming to do is have a fully integrated system. It may remain as a separate platform, taking feeds and feeding the data through to all the line of business systems, or we may decide that actually the capabilities that we need from the platform actually sit better perhaps within the system itself, or maybe it sits better alongside such things as road user charging and licensing systems. So that's part of the pilot, is to determine what the capabilities really are and how we should meet those needs. But as you can see, in the future, we'll be using the micromobility data integrated with all our systems, so that we can do planning and real-time decision making. And as I said at the beginning, the win-win carrot for both the operators and the individual users is that, or should be, that not only will you get to be riding on roads that are smoother, fewer potholes, and maybe are segregated for use, but also you may be getting the information about the traffic lights to enable you to manage your speed, to have a safer and smoother journey. So finally, just to summarize, that the micromobility data is at the heart of collaboration and assisted and automated decision making within TfL. It's not just something off to the side, and that micromobility data sharing, we want to make it understood, but to micromobility users that they will see that it's an enabler to safer and smoother travel, and so working with TfL and the operators is to everybody's advantage. Okay, thank you.